let's talk a little bit about Dilara Findikoglu. I feel like Findikoglu, I've heard that name before in football. I know she's Turkish. I feel like there's a play. I feel like she comes from a family of like ballers. I swear I've heard that name before, Findikoglu. Maybe it's a typical name in Turkey. I don't know. Either way, Dilara Findikoglu, most of you know Wagwan with her. Most of you know her brand. It kind of went viral for having that dress with all the fucking knives and forks and spoons all over it. It looks fucking amazing. She makes a lot of like goth inspired shit. If anything, weird thing to say here, but when she first started, I kind of felt like she was like a woman's version of like Charles Jeffrey. There's a bit of that Charles Jeffrey, like, I don't know, type of like, you know, rough around the edges when it came to some of her designs. Maybe it's a weird connection to make, but I felt like it. But anyway, she's carved out a very small niche for herself, a very specific niche for herself. She's very much beloved in the fashion industry and scene because she has a very specific and a very clearly defined aesthetic. I think her shows are really good as well. I love how she does her casting. I love even how she presents herself, right? Very goth inspired type of shit, whatever else it may be. But for the longest time, when it comes to Dilara Findikoglu, for the longest time, I've heard little murmurs, little rumors on the grapevine, which again is kind of opposite of Charles Jeffrey because, you know, I met that guy a couple of times when I used to work in a co-working space in Somerset House. And again, we didn't have long conversations, but the little interactions we had, always a sweet guy, Charles Jeffrey. Always a nice guy. Whenever I think because our studios were kind of next to each other, you'd always see people that worked for him. They looked like they were having a good time. They looked like they were complaining. When I did have a small chat with a couple of them over the water cooler, they always had great things to say about Charles Jeffrey. So it's a real contrast of experiences because anyone that I've heard speak about Charles Jeffrey and his brand, they've always said great things about him, how he works, how he runs his company, how he runs his brand. Great. Dilara Findikoglu, all I've heard are bad things. But she's the darling of the industry as well. So it's kind of weird because it's a worst kept secret that she's a bit of a bitch behind the scenes and working for her brand is awful. Like it's kind of been, you know, said across fashion Twitter, on IG comments. There's even Glassdoor reviews are very, very bad and negative. But for some reason, it's never really picked up steam. No one's really covered it in a very extensive way. Well, it changes today. Fashionista wrote this article about Dilara Findikoglu and the employees that she has and the treatment that they get in there. And it's a really interesting expose that kind of gives you a bit of behind the scenes look at what it goes on behind a brand. And unfortunately, this is mostly the reality from my experience, right? From my experience in fashion and the little things that I've done, been associated with it, been next to it, bloody blah, blah, blah. It's a lot more painful than it is beautiful and happy, especially for the brands you look up to. And unfortunately so, especially the ones that you love the most. You end up, that's why they always say don't meet your heroes, because you might meet them and they might be pieces of shit. Weirdly enough, the best reactions I've had actually, kind of interactions, have been with like the top G's. So one time I bumped into Ray Kawakubo and her husband, the guy that runs, I forgot his name, he's like an English guy with a bald head, really nice. When I bumped into, obviously, you know, I've spoken to Virgil a couple of times, RIP, prior to him passing. Great guy. Who else I can think of? Charles Jeffrey runs his brand. Great guy. So there are some people that you meet that are great, but for the most part, especially if you're going in through the intern thing and you're meeting middle management or you're meeting like entry level people, you're going to have a hard experience, a bad experience. And it might, if your love for fashion with a capital F is not very strong, it's not very high, it's not very plentiful, it might actually ruin your experience and it might put you off from getting involved in it at all. I know a ton of people who went down the intern route for a magazine, for a fucking showroom, for a brand, right? And who got completely fell out of love essentially with fashion because of that experience. So this is a all too common story. It's really sad in my personal opinion, because I feel like a lot of people that go into fashion, they don't go into it for the money. There's not a lot of money in fucking fashion. They go into it because they fucking love it. For lack of a better term, they have a real passion for it. No one goes into fashion to become rich and successful. Maybe you might go into it for clout. You might go into it for free clothes. You might go into it for access to shows, but you're not going into it to be fucking rich. You're going into it because you fucking love it. You're obsessed over cuts. You're obsessed over fits. You're obsessed over a special period in time. You're obsessed over all that shit. So when these designers bring in these people, bring in these kids, bring in these people who love them, love their brand, want to take part, want to be all in, and then they take advantage of them, treat them badly, it breaks my heart. because these motherfuckers are coming in with the best of intentions to help you kind of propel your brand, get you to become more well known, and then in part kind of get some satisfaction for helping you along that journey. So taking advantage of that, I feel like is really bad mind. But it is what it is. Let's read the article because it's a fashionista. Former Dilara Findikoglu employees open up about their negative experience at the brand. Obviously, here she is looking amazing, by the way, at the British British Fashion Awards the other day. Actually, fucking, not gonna lie, I wouldn't mind her throwing her moleskin at me. Not gonna lie, to be completely toxic, I would be perfectly okay if she threw a pair of scissors at me, if she threw a moleskin book at me, if she threw a fucking, one of those model things at me. I'd be perfectly okay. I'd forgive her. I'd forgive her if she, if she made me stand on one leg. I'd forgive her, personally. But I'm not these people. Let's continue. Let's continue. So, according to the financial statements Dilara Findikoglu filed for gov.uk, for the year ending January 31st, 2025, its studio just had one employee. On paper, the operation appears to orbit entirely around the founder's creative force and this single staff member. However, multiple sources say the actuality, the studio relies on many more hands, which leads to the uncomfortable conversation or question, how much of the brand's output may be attributed to the work of unpaid interns. This, I think, is inexcusable. Inexcusable. No, let me not say that. It's a different world we live in, right? It's a different world. You kind of saw a little bit with it that happened with the lady, what's her name? From the cutting room floor. Big up the lady from the cutting room floor. Forgive me, your name escapes me right now. But that drama with her having that role that she listed about wanting to have a PA, and then the salary, I think, was maybe 50 to 60 grand. And people that live in New York or people that are familiar with fashion in general were basically saying that the role that she was advertising and the salary didn't match. She was asking for too much. But then that opened up another conversation around fashion in general, and that just being the what happens, right? In most fashion companies, people are definitely doing more work than what they're being paid for. They're not really compensated accurately. It just is what it is. Unless you're at the really high positions, most positions from entry to mid-level are usually underpaid. You do it mostly for the love, and of course the money is good, but you're doing it mostly really for the love and to be involved in the industry. But I do remember when that conversation around the lady at the cutting room floor and her job advertising coming, it really did make me realize how different and I think how important this new generation of Gen Z kids are in fashion. They're really important because they're forcing us to change how we think about things. Because in my world, when I was coming up, working for a brand and being an unpaid intern wasn't that big of a deal. Because the fact that you worked for the brand was what you wanted. You wanted to say that you worked for Dilara Findikoglu. You wanted to say that you worked for fucking Margaret Howe, that you worked for J.W. Anderson, that you worked for Christopher Kane, that you worked for Matthew Williams, whatever. You said you wanted to say you worked for these brands. So it didn't matter if they didn't pay you. The clout of working for them, the experience working for them was worth more than its weight in gold, was worth more than whatever salary you could get paid, because you knew you would use that time to kind of allow you to do other things, You'd use their name to kind of get into other doors. You'd use that time to build up your portfolio, build up your skills, whatever it may be. But it also opened up an avenue for you to get taken advantage of, which happened also often because the brands knew why you were accepting that role to be an unpaid intern, or even just to cover your fucking travel. The brand knew you weren't doing it just because you love the brand. You were doing it for your own self-interest. So they will take advantage of that. They'll take advantage of your need to be involved and kind of take the piss out of you a little bit by maybe asking you to do too much, giving you too much workload, making you work too long, and just generally taking advantage of you, maybe not giving you credit on certain things, maybe overlooking you on certain things, blah, 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 blah. The list continues. But you accepted it because the end justified the means. But I do love that this new generation Z, this younger generation of kids are not having it. They're not having it. Passion for fashion isn't enough for them. They're not having it. So if you want them to work for you, they are demanding money. They are demanding a livable wage. They're demanding something. They're demanding it. And I really do love that they're doing it because I think they're going to force the industry to kind of change and to become a little bit more, to become better in terms of how they treat people. Hopefully towards the end. Because I don't think this would have happened in years gone by. It's happening now because I'm assuming most of our workforce is Generation Z or maybe, younger millennials, I'd assume. Let's continue. Though still an emerging label in London's hectic fashion scene, Dilara Findikoglu has conquered her space in it, dressing A-list stars like Kim Kardashian, Charlie XCX, Margot Robbie, drawing critical acclaim from her buzzy, disruptive London Fashion Week collections and receiving major industry recognition, including being shortlisted for the LVMH prize, and just this week winning Vanguard Award at 2025 Fashion Awards in London. Now globally recognized as a creative visionary at the forefront of the new wave of British fashion, the quote says, Findikoglu appears to be in the picture of every industry success. But when you scratch past the surface, it's often the case things are more complex. There she is, dressing some great people. Ooh, I forgot about that Charlie XCX outfit for Brit Awards. Absolutely fantastic. Jesus Christ. That outfit, okay, I didn't know that was, okay, so I'm assuming it was maybe a mix of Chrome Hearts. I thought this outfit here with Kim at the InStyle Awards, I thought that was Chrome Hearts, not gonna lie. I assumed that was Chrome Hearts, but I guess maybe the jewelry might be Chrome Hearts. But yeah, it looks two amazing looks there. You immediately get what her aesthetic is about, right? You immediately get her aesthetic. If anything, I think Dilara probably matches Charlie XCX aesthetic more than Kim. But Kim is also going for this kind of goth thing lately. Let's continue. Allegations that point to the brand's toxic workplace have been floating around industry circles for years. They ignited when Luis Pisano, big up Luis Pisano, that's my jigger, the American journalist based in Paris, mapped a pattern of reviews on Glassdoor, a website where current and former employees anonymously review companies. Pisano first fell down the Glassdoor rabbit hole in September 2023 while chatting with his usual fashion circle about internships, a constant obsession among his followers, desperate to break into the industry. When the conversation turned to London, he says someone casually tossed out a half-joking, half-serious line, quote, "Oh well, just don't send them to Dilara." Okay, let's play this.
So I had some thoughts while working on my Substack today, and that is that London Fashion Week has a few problems. We all know this, but there's one in particular that I'm going to talk about today, and that is the open secret that one of its biggest stars is allegedly running their entire brand on the cruel mistreatment of unpaid interns. Now, if you go digging, go look at Glassdoor, TikTok, the receipts are there. Interns calling her the worst woman you could work for, warning, don't do this. Long hours, missing pay, some were locked in the studio allegedly overnight in winter, constant verbal abuse, throwing work on the floor only to make someone pick it up, stealing ideas, fat shaming. One report even claims that something was thrown at a student. It allegedly got so bad that Central St. Martin's reportedly stopped sending students there to do placements.
Jesus Christ.
And before you ask, no, this isn't some random kid living off of Tesco sandwiches trying to make it. This is a designer who comes from a very wealthy family, and her collections are celebrated for being super intricate. But those details don't appear out of nowhere. They're allegedly being assembled by interns who aren't being paid. So the very thing that the press celebrates is built on exploitation. Par for the course in fashion. Now, let's zoom out because I don't think that this is just one bad boss story. I think it is a symptom of London itself. Paris and Milan have LVMH and Kering throwing billions around with a lot more rules and regulations. London, by contrast, runs on independent labels, which often survive by relying on unpaid or underpaid interns. Now, this isn't to say that the same thing doesn't happen in Paris and Milan, but not to the extent or extremes that it happens in London. It's really quite sad, actually, because London's fashion scene has always been known for risk-taking and innovation, like amazing clothes with amazing POVs. But when the reality behind those amazing clothes is interns locked in cold studios, with few breaks, being verbally abused for no pay, it kind of exposes the fragility of that myth. I think if London really wants to matter again outside of having H&M 4 times on their schedule, they have to figure out how to properly support designers without normalizing a system that encourages exploitation.
Yeah, a lot of great things said there. Number one thing that I've always felt about, which is something that I'm happy I was never a part of. I'm a regular person. Like, I have my interest in whatever else it may be, but I'm a regular person at heart. Like, I just have regular things that I just will not stand across the board. And that's disrespect. I think there are some people out there that for whatever reason, they tend to change what they will accept based on what kind of venue they're at, right? Based on what scenario they're in. So if they're in a particular place, maybe an industry thing, they'll put up with more disrespect. They'll put up with more abuse than they would do in their everyday life. Me personally, I apply the rules across the board. whether it's somebody bumping into me at a fucking train station, whether it's someone bumping into me at a fucking fashion show, whether it's someone cutting in the queue whilst I'm in the Asda, whether it's someone cutting in the queue while I'm standing outside the fucking Berghain. Disrespect to disrespect. I'm gonna say something. I'm going to let you know that I'm not happy with what you're doing, you know? But unfortunately, that type of attitude can also land you in trouble. It could also make you look a little bit combative. It could also maybe make people think that you're problem, whatever. It's not a good thing to do overall. But I think when you do that, you avoid a lot of problems, because I cannot imagine a scenario where I would just swallow working as an unpaid intern for a very illustrious, well-celebrated and lauded fan in the press. All the while I'm an unpaid intern. I hand in an idea to the designer, like, hey, here's my idea, here's a sample, here's something I'm working on that I think will be good, and then they throw it on the floor as a way to reject it, and then they make me pick it up. Like, I can't imagine a scenario where I would ever put up with that. Like, I'm throwing hands. Obviously, it's a woman, I wouldn't, but do you know what I mean? If I'm a girl, I'm throwing hands. Like, we're going to fight. We're going to have an actual physical altercation. There's no need, because it's so, that sort of level of disrespect is so unnecessary. You're clearly trying to, like, mug me off for no reason. If you want to sternly say no, if you want to object to it, if you want to call me out with your words or whatever, or shout at me, fair enough. But don't take my fucking sketch, don't take my sample and just dash it on the floor and then tell me to pick it up like I'm a dog or something. Do you know what I mean? That is unfathomable level of disrespect. But you see that happening a lot in fashion. Whether you go to like shows, whether you go to after parties, certain people just have the courage to say things or to act in a certain way that they would never act outside of that industry, because they know that you are on your best behavior too. They know that you're there because you want to have a look. You're trying to get involved. You're trying to, for lack of a better term, shake hands, kiss cheeks and whatever else it may be. You're trying to get involved and network. So they know to take advantage of that, because in the outside world, in the quote unquote real world, for lack of a better term, that wouldn't run. The one thing that's really funny from what he said, it's kind of interesting to hear that behind the scenes in some aspects of some brands, the entire fashion industry is being run by unpaid interns, essentially slave labor. Right? So in some respects, if somebody decided to say, Dilaria's new name is Dilara slave labor Findikoglu, you wouldn't, you know what I mean? You wouldn't be too opposed by it, right? She couldn't come out here and be angry if people refer to her as Dilara fucking slave labor Findikoglu. And that's the funny thing as well. What he says is true. She's known for her intricate work, right? She's known for her intricate work, sort of similar to, like, for lack of a better term, RIP the great fucking Alexander, whatever his name is, right? He's not Alexander McQueen, sorry. He's also known for his intricate work. Imagine if you found out that his entire brand was held up, was propelled, was supported, was founded by a batch of unpaid interns. Like, that would completely destroy the mythos, the mystery, the allure that you had for that guy. So it's kind of crazy to see Dilara take all this credit for the great work that she puts out in the collections, when really the entire thing, or most of the thing, is designed by unpaid interns. The cruelty level is at another level. The only way it would really work for me, the unpaid intern thing, is if she was known to be a type of person who maybe uses unpaid interns, but then is also very generous when it comes to giving you a real job at the end. Where maybe, a batch of 100 unpaid interns start, and she lets you know, hey guys, if 5 of you succeed, there's 5 spots available in my team permanently. You're all competing for it. That might be excusable. Maybe. But nowadays, given the cost of living and shit, given that everyone's struggling, to have people working as an unpaid intern in London is crazy. But another thing before I continue with the article, the only thing that makes it worthwhile and makes it make sense and reveals another part of the fashion industry people don't talk about, the only way you can be an unpaid intern working in London is if you come from money. Let's be real. The only way you can be an unpaid intern working in London is if either you have a job, and that obviously if you have a job, it's hard to be an intern, or unless you come from money, which as well exposes that most, if not all, of fashion in London is kind of populated by a lot of rich kids, unfortunately, which kind of goes, and bringing up fucking Lee McQueen again, he was probably one of the last great kind of working class fashion designers. They don't really exist anymore, Maybe some people would say middle class is a new working class in fashion, but the idea of a working class fashion designer doesn't really exist. There's no time for that shit. You have to fucking focus on real shit, There's There's no real time to focus on that stuff. You don't have time to intern. Maybe you don't even have the money to fucking go to uni to learn about fashion, educate yourself in that regard. You don't maybe have the funds available to start your brand, to bankroll it, to explore different manufacturing and you know, production fucking processes and shit, whatever else it may be. It's kind of cruel. It reminds me a little bit. Last thing before I continue with the article, of this time where I was in London. I was in central London randomly, right? Riding my fixie. The time I was riding my my cruiser. I was riding my fucking cruiser. I had a little 26-inch BMX, right? I used to ride. Loved the little single speed bike, you know, neon grips and stuff, all black. Like, fucking love that shit. But unfortunately, it got stolen. Anyway, long story less long. I'm riding around London. I end up taking a break to get some water. And I didn't realize where I went to take a break and like sit on the curb, I was sitting right in front of Vogue House, the former headquarters of Vogue magazine in London. And on that same day, I was sitting in front of Vogue House, just chilling, doing my thing. The fire alarm went off. So everybody in Vogue had to come out, right? Fire alarm. You got to do the whole fire procedure. And I was so shocked. That was when I was like, whoa, fashion in London is not very representative of London or diverse. Because I swear on my life, every single person that came out of Vogue House, I worked at Vogue at that particular time, that was a few years ago, was fucking white. And not like a certain type of white. The type of white person who, like, you know, their dad's an MP, you know? The type of white person who their dad runs fucking BT or some sort of petroleum company. Like that type of white girl that was just coming out in their droves. Blonde, brown hair, blonde, brown hair, blonde, brown hair. That kind of softness of skin that looks like she's never had a bunch of struggle. The softness of hands where you never had to touch anything too hot or too cold. Just the same type of girl coming out of Vogue. I was like, shit. Fashion is like really interesting in London because they try to make it seem like it's diverse and it's energetic and it's counterculture and it's, you know, rebellious, but really the people that are running it are like Mundeles, you know? Mundeles are running the whole thing. Just a classic, like, typical Notting Hill fucking white girl that went to whatever, you know, I don't know where she went to, maybe Goldsmith, maybe Central St. Martin's, studied communications, and she could afford to intern at fucking Vogue. It's the type of girls that can afford to intern whilst also getting dressed in nice clothes, you know? Whilst also buying fucking lunch for themselves every day. You're like, hold on. You're interning and you're spending 20 quid on lunch every day. And you're coming dressed up for real. Fucking hell. Anyway, let's continue. The article says, I was like, oh, what's the tea? Pisano tells Fashionista. And they said, girl, look at Glassdoor reviews. Naturally, Pisano, ever the nosy observer, his words, not mine, dove right in. There's not so many, but there's enough with the same similar story, and they're all mostly negative, he notes. Indeed, the reviews range from alleged stories of unpaid overtime to accounts of interns reportedly paying for seamstresses to experience of verbal abuse. Upon being contacted to address the allegations including the story, the Findikoglu studio told Fashionista it prefers not to comment on this. Bro, imagine working as an intern and you are paying for seamstress. You're paying for a seamstress out of pocket to complete your work. Maybe because you got too much work on, maybe because you want to just finish the work in general, or because, like, imagine being an intern and paying out of pocket for something. What the fuck? And then also not getting any credit for it. Because I don't really hear, forgive me if I'm wrong here. I'm very familiar with Dilara Findikoglu. I'm familiar with her work. I've watched a couple of interviews. I don't really hear her talking about her team too much. I'm not going to lie. You know, there's some designers out there who are very differential and kind of, you know, defer to the team, defer to the support system. I don't usually hear Dilara, you know, saying, oh my God, I couldn't be here without my team. There's a lot of I, you know, there's a lot of I in her. There's not a lot of team. There's a lot of I in her. So doing all of that and then also making your interns pay out of pocket is fucking diabolical. On the point of Glassdoor, a word of caution. I had a bad experience because I made one of my biggest, I think, career work-life kind of, you know, mistakes in my employment, where I was working at Depop for a bit, and because I felt like I wasn't progressing, I was just doing like community support stuff, and I wanted to work more in marketing and social and whatever. But at that time, there was a bit of a ceiling. You couldn't really move into that team. And to be completely honest, if I'm completely honest, I forgot that girl's name, but there was this girl that worked at Depop that got hired. She was like the head of marketing for a bit. Who I don't think I kind of not a lot of people got along with her anyway, but I in particular didn't really like her vibe. She was a little bit snotty, a little bit up her own ass. I forgot her name. She used to work for V-Files. She kind of looks a little bit like She kind of looks a little bit like Lily Allen. She kind of looks a little bit like that girl called Jinzo from the book club. She kind of has that look. She kind of, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. She kind of has dark hair, cut in a bob. She worked at V-Files. She came to Depop and she took over the head of marketing. So, and she kind of had her team and she didn't really seem too open to having other people from other teams join at that time anyway. It could be, I could be mistaken. I could have not read it right, but in general, I didn't feel like I could move in other department at Depop. So like an idiot, I hastily started applying for other roles because I was getting a little bit frustrated in my role. But mistake I made, I didn't check the Glassdoor reviews on the companies I was applying for. And the company I ended up going to ended up going bankrupt in 2 months. So I ended up leaving Depop. That was a solid, proper job. That was no issues. I was well liked in the team. I hit all my KPIs. Everything was fine in general. I left that job to go to another job because I felt like, oh yeah, that job had the title of like head of, social media manager or whatever it may be. And then within 2 months, just before Christmas, that company went under. And to make matters worse, I only got paid once. The second payment, which was meant to be December, we didn't get because the company went bankrupt. And then we had to kind of, go to court, do that whole shit. And we got it like 6 or 8 months later. But I could have avoided that if I went on Glassdoor, because on Glassdoor, all the reviews were quite negative of the company. So I do recommend if you're looking for a job, make sure you double check Glassdoor, but also be wary. Glassdoor is similar to like, Uber reviews, Uber Eats reviews. Some people are a little bit, they just love to complain. So sometimes in the delivery app, you'll see somebody complain about food and give it 1 star because they forgot the condiments. So the majority of the meal was good, but because the shop or the restaurant before forgot the condiments, they'll give the restaurant a 1 star, which is not fair. Same that goes for Glassdoor. Sometimes you can have a bad experience yourself at a company that doesn't say the whole company is shit. So you have to kind of, you have to kind of pick and choose. You have to kind of be, just look yourself on Glassdoor and make an informed decision, but don't always take the negative reviews of a company as the be all and end all. Obviously, if they're all negative, fair, but sometimes people have bad experiences that's not reflective of the whole time they're there. Anyway, let's continue. About a month after Pisano's social media expose, designer Karina Bond dropped a TikTok detailing her experience from 6 years ago in an unnamed London studio. That was flourishing on paper, but whose internship reality was far from glamorous. In the video, Bond revealed that she worked long hours without lunch break, and like the norm in so many London studios, no pay at all. Though Bond, who now operates her own label, has chosen not to comment further, she confirmed to Fashionista that the TikTok in question refers to her experience at Dilara Findikoglu. Let's play the clip.
So guys, this is real life Devil Wears Prada, but worse. It's a classic fashion internship horror story. And the joke's on me because I heard about the reputation of this designer before I started. Someone told me that they once threw a vase at one of the interns. But I didn't believe it. I mean, come on, who would, right? It's my first day and the designer is nowhere to be seen. It's just the studio manager. And she proudly tells me that prior to this job, her only experience in the fashion industry was being a model. Which is great, modeling is great. But when it's that, and then running a fashion design studio full-time, it's like completely 2 separate jobs. So red flags are beginning to merge in places. Now the first task she gives me is to sew on all these labels onto the new collection, which is going to Paris the next day. So there's a time deadline. And it's about 50 labels, and you also have to hand sew each one. I consider myself a really fast sewer. I know me. I'm like, no problem, I've got this. It's about 6 p.m. at this point, and I still haven't eaten. So I go up to see the studio manager and I ask very politely, "Hi, do you mind if I have a really quick break because I still haven't eaten?" This girl looks at me and laughs in my face. Laughs. And she goes, "We don't eat until we finish the work."
Damn!
Guys, I finished my first day at 3 a.m. She doesn't even check if I get home safe.
Get your sewing up.
Never warned me about the overtime, although is it really overtime when it's 3 a.m? At this point, it's the next bloody day. This internship pays no travel or food expenses, let alone pay the intern. I've never quit anything before in my life, but I quit this after 3 days, and I don't even know why it took me that long when that was my first day. And the worst part is, this fashion designer is currently thriving in the fashion industry. They are constantly promoted and praised by the British Fashion Council. The stylists love them. The A-list celebrities love wearing them. They are doing so well. And it's crazy to me because and I've heard so many other stories about the same designer and about so many others that are just horrible, nasty people. and they're doing so well in the fashion industry. So what do we do? How do we expose them? I don't want a lawsuit. But please feel free to share any horror stories about your fashion internships. I'm sure I'm not the only one. And let's get this fashion industry fixed, please.
Now, not to be that guy, but there is there's maybe a misaligning of like expectations when it comes to fashion or internships in general. There's probably a misalignment when it comes to that sort of thing. There is maybe a belief when you start an internship that might lead to a job, but usually you should take an internship because you want the experience. You want the real life experience of working in an industry that you want to work in for the majority of your career. When you kind of have that as your main focus, the way you're treated in between won't really matter too much because the experience is worth more than its weight in gold, and the experience of the job is going to outweigh how you're being treated. Obviously, there are some exceptions, but I think generally, kind of having a bit of street smarts about you and being able to look around the room would have kind of solved this girl's issues in what she's trying to say. Because the whole lunch thing, I think I would have clocked straight away while going for the studio. You would have looked around the studio and seen people eating at their desk, seen people quickly grab a bite on the way to the fucking other room or whatever else it may be, or just quickly sneak out, eat their thing and come back. You would have just seen Wagwan. There would have been no need for you to go up to the studio manager and say, can I take a... I mean, you would have just known what the deal was. Maybe you can quickly run out to Tesco's, grab something and come back and work. Is it inhumane? Is it a bit abusive? Is it fucking taking advantage of people? Of course. But that's what you're working with in the environment you're in. So I think that was probably her first mistake in terms of, going over to do that sort of thing. But one of the things that's sad about this sort of situation is that this story isn't new. This story is old. People have said these things from the beginning of time. But the sad thing is that we don't tend to fix these issues. So in most cases, even if people have bad experiences interning for fashion brands or interning for companies in general, when they go set up their own company, guess what they do? They repeat the same mistakes, especially like older generations. They sometimes feel as if, because I suffered, because I struggled in fashion, because I struggled in this industry, when I have my own brand, I'm not going to treat these new kids coming up nicely. I'm going to also make them suffer because I suffer, which is not fair. So I think there's a ongoing cycle of people repeating the same kind of behavior that they experience with others coming up, which is bad. We should kind of break that cycle. So if you did intern for Dilara Findikoglu and you had a bad experience, you owe it to yourself and to other kids coming up to treat them better, to correct all the wrongs that you suffered when you were working in her studio. But I think in general, there needs to be an understanding of how to kind of, behave, conduct yourself in a internship. And I think one of the ways is to kind of observe the place you're at and see what people are doing and not doing. And then just basically copy what's going on. Because I think she would have realized quite quickly there was no need to go up to the manager and ask for permission to eat. I mean, even though the studio manager was being a bit of a dickhead by laughing in her face, don't get me wrong, I still think she could have avoided some issues by just noticing, okay, cool, there are some people eating it under their desk. Someone went to go eat a quick sandwich in the toilet. Someone is fucking having a sandwich with their head stuck out of a window. Cool. Just copy what's going on around you and you'll be fine. But anyway, let's read the rest of the article. Some London insiders have even claimed that Central St. Martin students are no longer allowed to intern for the designer, a claim that CSM PR representative denies, stressing instead that the university listens to student feedback and works collaboratively with employers to ensure positive work cultures. That's an incredible line, by the way. Big up CSM. That's an incredible fucking line. Big up my former uni. That is an incredible line because essentially they're saying what the insider said. The insider said that CSM is now not allowing students to go and intern for the brand. And then CSM saying, no, we're just listening to the feedback of the students and collaborate with the employers. So basically the students are saying that woman's a fucking tyrant. I don't want to work there anymore. I had a bad experience. And they're saying, cool, we're going to stop sending you there. Somebody mentioned here, big up Don Dotter. Are co-ops internships a requirement for graduation at CSM? I don't think they're a requirement. I don't know if they're a requirement, but I do know because I did product design, and it was one of the parts, an essential part. I think one of the appeals of taking a course at CSM or any sort of UAL University of South London, because they do tend to encourage people to get real life experience, which I love. It's not all theoretical. It's not all book based. It's not all studio thing. They actually encourage you to go and get real life experience by visiting studios, visiting stores, working at brands. They really do encourage it. And I think nowadays, especially in fashion, they probably have things in place, especially with all the other recent graduates, where they can kind of recommend people or have showcases, fashion shows, whatever. And so you can kind of get into those brands and get that real life experience, because, you know, it's one thing designing in your university and designing fucking student collection. It's another thing, you know, running a fucking fashion brand as a business and whatever else it may be. So I don't know if it's a requirement, but it is something that they have in the courses for the most part, from what I understand. Continuing on. Everything you read is true, Andy confesses. She worked at the studio full-time for a few months last year, having signed an NDA of which she claims she never actually received a copy. Former employees described their relationship with Findikoglu as cordial, with good moments she doesn't deny. And while Andy didn't experience anything directly she describes as toxic, what she observed was hardly the kind of introduction one hoped for when they were dipping their toes into the fashion world. Nothing was covered, she says. Not the commute, not a sandwich, not even an Uber after a 16-hour day. The gaps in support stretch far beyond the basics though. As Andy recalls, it wasn't uncommon for trainees to be sent out to buy fabrics, buttons and other materials with their own money. They'd be given one of Findikoglu's cards, but it would never work. There was never any money on it. Oh, that's cheeky. That is cheeky. Her sending you out to go buy fabrics with a card that doesn't work, knowing full well that because you have a passion for fashion, you're definitely going to pay for it yourself, is fucking cheeky. But the whole commute, and you got to negotiate that before you start. Most internships that I've been at, even I used to do an internship for a streetwear label that doesn't even exist anymore. Big up 12 Bar, big up Nick Jackson and the other guy, I forgot his name. Man, his fucking name forgives me, please forgive me. But I used to intern for this fashion brand, or this streetwear brand, sorry, back in the day. And it took I had to, I won't say fight, but we had to have a back and forth with the guy to give me a fucking travel card at the time. Like a weekly travel card. And I wasn't even asking for lunch. I just wanted a travel card. Just cover my fucking travel, because I was coming from, you know, the far depths of fucking East London, all the way to Central London where the offices was, right? This is back in the day. Imagine a streetwear brand. They had an office in, yeah, those guys were making money on the slide. They had an office on where's that place? They had an office, yeah, their office, right? 12 Bar office. I don't know if you know London, but it was where the old Brown's men's store was. I don't know what that street is. It's behind Oxford Street, where the Brown's men's store was. It's like a street behind Oxford Circus. They had a studio office in at the top of one of those stores on that little, the little street, whatever, with the store. Jesus Christ, insane. So I can't imagine what the rent was like. But anyway, I had to really fight with them to kind of get me a travel card. And yeah, they did give it to me, but it wasn't easy as, oh yeah, cool, just take my card and buy yourself a monthly one. I had to really kind of fight for my justified reason to have one. But I think most internships don't cover shit. That's actually how you get the job. I'm not gonna lie, it's toxic as fuck, but part of getting the job of being an intern is that you offer up your services and your willingness to work without no compensation. And then they will choose who they want. So if they have 4 options available or 5 options on the shortlist, they're going to go for the guy or girl or they or them who's willing to work for fucking free. It even extends to DJ world. I've heard in the DJ world, this is a common practice nowadays, where certain parties, certain collectives, certain clubs will allow you to play if you just pay for your own travel. You pay for your own travel, you pay for your own accommodation. Yeah, they'll let you play in their party. But then that means you're out of pocket by $1,000 or something. But obviously the chance to play in a club that's well known, to maybe get the attention of maybe a booking agent, or to maybe get an attention of a manager, that might be worth it. But it's something that applies across the board. Everyone kind of does that, unfortunately. So I think with internships, a lot of this younger generation probably need to have an understanding of what they're walking into. You're not walking into this is not like a regular 9 to 5 where you have a contract. You're essentially working as a 0-hour, what's your thing called? Freelancer in a way, right? You're kind of a freelancer with a 0-hour contract. There are no fucking, you don't get holidays. Yeah, I mean, there is no fucking sick pay. If you work, you get paid. If you work, you get recognition. If you don't, you get forgotten about. If you take a sick day, you might lose your spot. You have to kind of be aware of these type of things. But her sending out the interns to buy materials with the card that she knows doesn't have any money on it is fucking cheeky as fuck. Super cheeky. Lily, who navigated the studio's as earliest days in both as intern and newly hired staff, recalls the same pattern. We were having to pay for stuff with our own personal car, she says, noting that she was still a student at the time and had no savings. I would end up in situations where I would be minus 1,000, 2,000 on my car, £2,000 on my car. I couldn't pay my rent. I couldn't eat. When we were asked to get paid, Findikoglu would get mad at us. I'm sorry, but you're a fucking idiot. If you're paying for fabric out of your own card for a brand that's not paying you and you're not covering your rent, you're a fucking idiot. There's no amount of passion for fashion that would ever let me do that. Not even if I love the brand and the person was treating me well. That is beyond abusive, beyond crazy. Like, everybody involved in the situation is crazy. From the designer that's asking you to spend 1,000 of your own money to purchase things over however long period of time is, from the person that's spending it. Like, everything around this is fucking insane. And this being an open secret in the industry and everyone turning a blind eye is wild. Everyone pretending like it's not occurring is wild. It kind of goes to show that if you have friends in high places, I'm assuming she's probably connected with all the right people in the industry, all the right people in high society and shit. Like, she's probably good. But this is an insane reveal. Interns overdrawn by £1,000, £2,000. Not paying their rent because they try to buy fabrics and then getting mad, and then the designer of the brand getting mad when they ask for a fucking refund, when they ask for it to be paid back. Nah, piss take, bro. And again, here she is at the end of the shows, taking all the applause, right? The lionization of designers, taking all the applause, taking all the fucking praise, knowing full well she hasn't stitched a single thing, and most of the stuff that's been made has been made by fucking interns, unpaid ones at that. Real life slave labor in 4K. It continues. Years later, Andy tells me the interns and staff settled secretly on a rule. Never use your personal credit card. What followed became a sort of ritual. The company cards would fail. Trainees defeated would return empty-handed. Production was put on hold. Yet somehow she claims when someone was sent to pick up a small indulgence like tea, makeup, roses, or Gucci flip-flops, or a glass of Prosecco, the card magically worked. The studio's work was frequently held up. The usual remedy was to work late into the night. As Andy records, evenings would stretch to 8 p.m, midnight, sometimes even 2 in the morning. So essentially, the interns protested, right? They made a stand. They drew a line down the sand and said, no more, we're not spending our own money. But it ended up fucking them over, it sounds like. Because when you don't spend your own money, it puts a pause or it delays production, which then means you'll end up having to work more to catch up. So now I get why some people were spending the money. Because look, we're going to be the ones stitching these labels on here anyway. We're going to be the ones fucking applying these fucking sequins onto the dresses, these spoons, right? We're going to be the ones finishing these hems. Or these linings, we might as well just spend the money out of pocket, because if we don't, it's going to be us that's going to be, getting whipped, for lack of a better term. That is fucking crazy. And this quote here about the card always working when she sent people out to go buy tea, makeup, Gucci flip-flops or Prosecco is crazy. By the way, drinking Prosecco in the office, I think is a real red flag. The other company, what was it called? The co-working company with the co-working spaces. Wasn't the founder known for doing that? For drinking Prosecco in his office, like in his coffee mug and shit. I think that's usually a sign that your company's not serious, or it's run by an absolute tyrant or by a piece of shit. If they arrive to the office super late, they're trolling up in fucking Gucci flip flops. They fucking got a bottle of Prosecco on their table. They're doing bumps on the table. They're doing bumps in the bathroom. That's usually when you know you're working for a company that's not serious. It continues. Harry, who interned at Findikoglu studio in 2023 and also signed an NDA, recalls long hours as well. Working usually ended at around 8 p.m, this person says, occasionally stretching to 11 p.m. Jesus Christ. Working unpaid. Anyway, let's continue. While he remembers his experience to be largely positive, with celebratory moments like finishing photo shoots, prepping outfits for celebrities, and pep talks that motivated us to research a new collection, he also describes atmospheres as toxic and cold. I witnessed some verbal conflicts between Dilara, and the other staff members, which could be stressful. I was not directly targeted though. Findikoglu could be very demanding at times. I don't know. This doesn't sound like a complaint that's worth putting in this article. Sometimes you work late nights. That's part of being an intern, isn't it? You work late nights. Sometimes, you get exploited to a certain extent. It being a very high pressured environment and there being arguments and stuff, again, to be expected. Celebratory moments that you like finishing photo shoots, cool, congratulations. And yeah, and she was demanding of other people around you, kept you motivated, kept you on your toes. I don't think that's a bad thing. This I don't think should be included in the article. This is a bit whatever. It continues. High stakes moments were almost routine for Andy, but there's one in particular that stands out that still makes her wince. When a custom piece was due, the quote says, and someone was coming to collect it, and nothing had been bought on time because there was never any money, interns would have to be sent in a cab, sewing on the way, just to pass the dress off to a person taking it. The pressure to finish on time, the lack of proper equipment, no lighting. How are you meant to complete this in a professional ways? Okay, cool. That should be included. That should be at the top. That is obviously a bad work environment, right? We're being required to finish something in a cab, working in an environment where you got poor working conditions and stuff, where you're not able to do your best work. The lack of lighting is funny. I wonder if the lack of lighting is due to like not be able to pay the bills, or just her being cheap and not really willing to pay for more lighting. But I bet you she turned up in a car all the time. I bet you Dilara didn't take public transport to the studio. I bet you she didn't take any public transport. I bet you she turned up dressed to the nines. I bet you she turned up wearing incredible garments, incredible jewelry. I bet you, if allegedly, maybe there may have been some adult vitamins involved there that were always purchased and on deck. Good brand of fucking Prosecco, not the shit stuff. So that's the funny bit about fashion brands, right? No money to pay for adequate lighting. No money to pay for comfortable chairs and decent workstations, but enough money to pay for fucking roses to put around the studio. Like, okay. It continues. Lily too recalls incidences in which professionalism seemed to be lacking. One time we had a fitting for a pre-collection, she says. We got into the studio at 9:30 in the morning and worked straight through to 6:30 without being allowed to eat or even use the bathroom. I was fainting on the model. I couldn't focus, the quote says. We couldn't focus anymore because we were so hungry, and Findikoglu, I thought it said, and Findikoglu would walk past us eating a burger. No, Findikoglu would snap back at us and say, go eat when you're finished. You can see that this is not done. You finished that first. Whilst she ordered herself some pizza. Oh, yo, Dilara, you're a mean ass woman. Holy shit! You eat when you finish, as she's munching on a fucking oven baked pizza. Oh, Lily and her colleagues kept going because she says stopping wasn't an option. By the time the fitting ended, Findikoglu left. They were so desperate that they ate her leftover crust. Oh my god, that's how bad it was. They were all crunched over eating her leftover crust, like they're in fucking Oliver Twist. Yo, that is bleak. That is so fucking sad. That's some third world shit. They're eating the scraps. Oh my god. Yeah, this doesn't sound great. But you know what it is? You know what's funny? I'm reading all these accounts, right? You're hearing me read all these accounts. You're probably forming your own opinion, like, oh my god, this Dilara woman is fucking horrible. Fuck that brand. Hope those kids get what they get, get what's deserved of them and get their revenge, whatever. There's probably a queue. I bet you right now, Dilara Findikoglu has an inbox full of people DMing her wanting to intern right now. Even though this expose is out there, a lot of people on fashion Twitter are talking about it. It's one of the best kept secrets in London. I bet you Dilara Findikoglu's Gmail right now is popping with people wanting to intern for her. So unfortunately, this doesn't really do much, because there's people out there like, you know what, I could put up with that. I would put up with that to have Dilara Findikoglu on my CV. I'll put up with that to have the ability to work in that studio, to get experience working underneath her firsthand, see how studio works, so I can then, push that into my own brand or my own fucking whatever. There's people willing to put up with this, unfortunately. And the only way it stops, the only way it changes, if people stop putting up with it. It's so similar to the UFC. There's a video going around now of Henry Cejudo, who lost the other day, right? Henry Cejudo, who lost last night, on his knees, essentially begging Dana White for a win bonus, or just for a bonus in general. Oh, he lost obviously, but just for a bonus, because he announced his retirement, and he's literally on his knees begging Dana White for money. He gives him it in the end. He says, yeah, I'm going to give it to you. But that, I think, is representative of like the weird relationship that UFC has. The UFC's been known to exploit and to take advantage of their fighters, not pay them adequately. But for whatever reason, the UFC fighters have never really unionized and come together to kind of bring that to an end, because only the fighters can do that. The press and the media and the fans like myself can complain and say, oh my God, it's not fair that these UFC fighters have to fight more in a year to just earn a regular salary. And if they lose too many fights, they get cut, which fucks up their whole career. We can't really do anything. It's the fighters that have to take, fucking control. Same goes here. the interns, the people in fashion that work in fashion, have to make a stand and decide to stand against this sort of treatment. But unfortunately, there are more people out there that are willing to put up with this than the ones who are willing to stand up against it. So, you know, it kind of renders these articles null. But hey, here we are. With a full-time position, the article says, that had her in the studio 6 days a week. 6 days a week, Jesus. In what Lily describes as a 9 to 9, she found herself loaded with responsibilities. The quote, I was doing pattern cutting, draping, drawing, and everything, the ex-employee shares. We would have to get her cleaners, book her cabs, book her appointments. We had to handle everything. Production, emailing, PR, makeup, booking, the seamstresses. All while keeping one eye on the phone in case her boss wanted more. One day, she says, the quote, she made me change the cab because the cab smelled bad. Yo, fashion designers, man, people in fashion in general, man, the way they treat people, it's like, oh my god. The behavior, the attitude, the ego, fucking hell. Lily recalls, still shocked. According to her, the designer hadn't even been banned from Uber for violating community guidelines, leaving interns to manage her transportations entirely. Bear in mind, Lily laughs dryly, this woman takes 25 Ubers a day. What could she be getting banned for Uber for? Probably drinking, I'm assuming, right? What could Dilara Findikoglu be banned from Uber for? I'd imagine probably drinking or doing drugs. Maybe two or the same. Or maybe arguing with the driver, but what would you be getting banned for? You're just going from A to B as a fashion person. Like, what the fuck? But I'm assuming, or maybe just doing what people, you're not meant to do. When you order an Uber, she sees the type of person who'd make her interns order an Uber, then she'll change her mind and not take it, you know? And then of course you make the person sit outside for ages. They then, you know, it's kind of a no-show. That kind of gets a mark on your account. Your rating goes down. I think over time you probably get a strike. So maybe a combination of those things. After 2 years, Lily quit, utterly drained, and said, I was throwing up every morning. Before going in, she recalls her voice trembling, the memory still haunting me. It was still haunting her. Holy shit. That woman runs a... So, not only does Dilara Findikoglu collect, you know, or design very haunting collections, she also provides her interns with a very haunting experience. It's a very harrowing and haunting experience, right? Her clothes look like they come straight out of some horror movie, some sci-fi movie, some sort of nightmare, some dreamscape nightmare. But it seems like working for her is also a dream and a nightmare rolled into one, you know? More so nightmare than dream, but still. So I guess she's true to her raps in a way, right? Because wouldn't you be, let's be honest, right? As much as a bitch she sounds like, as much as a piece of shit she sounds like, as much as a straight up tyrant, right? That she sounds like, are we really surprised that a woman that designs clothes that look like this is not the most cheery, bubbly, encouraging, hand ran the soldier, empowering, motivating, fair, nice person? Are we really surprised that this lady, like, I'm not really surprised. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really fucking not surprised that she's such a, you know, like this behind the scenes. It makes complete sense looking at the clothes. Continuing, over the years, many interns have passed through the studio's walls. Andy, who has worked across multiple fashion studios in London, finds the sheer quantity of Findikoglu's studio astounding. The entire brand is built on interns, the quote said. Without that incredible manpower, there wouldn't be the brand or the exposure she has. But again, who allowed this to happen for so long? Who in the industry allowed this woman to run a brand on the back of slave labor, essentially? Who allowed this to go on for so long without calling it out, without highlighting it? People want to talk about sustainability and all this nonsense, all these buzzwords, but here is a brand essentially built off the backs of people's trauma, of people's fucking, you know, hurt, pain, abuse, and people are not saying a jack shit about it. Jack shit. But you dare hire a fucking creative director who's black, a creative director who maybe comes from a streetwear background and has no education. The whole industry explodes with debates about, oh, you've not got an education, all this crying and moaning. But here's somebody running an entire brand on fucking slave labor, right? Making people go into debt, abusing people, I don't know, mentally, physically, whatever it may be. Taking advantage of people's, you know, dreams and passions and shit. And no one says a word. No one says a word. Maybe because her face fits, right? Maybe because her face fits. Because let's be honest, if that was fucking Grace World Bonner, if that was, you know, if she looked like Martin Rose, I don't think this kind of goes, you know, gets swept under the rug. I don't think this gets swept under the rug. And dare I say it, if it was a fucking black guy, dare I fucking say it. So that's very interesting in itself. But yeah, man, crazy situation all in all. Whether or not this will change anything, I really do doubt it. And maybe partly is due to do the talent level, because her collections are really fucking good, right? So maybe it has to do with the talent level. Maybe certain people will be like, you know what? We're going to turn a blind eye to some of her treatment or mistreatment of her fucking, interns, because the work is just so good. Because we see a lot with fashion, right? We see it. Look at my goat, Hedi Samain. My goat, Hedi Samain, is known to be a bit of a pain in the ass. My other goat, fucking Phoebe Philo, has got many complaints about her, even on Glassdoor, right? Of people complaining about how she works and treats people. So maybe there's an acceptance with some of the mavericks, some of the fucking thought leaders, some of the fucking, top talent out there, that this is par of course when it comes to having an elite designer. They're not maybe not gonna be the nicest person behind the scene. They're maybe gonna run a bit of a sweatshop, a bit of slave labor, maybe running there. Who fucking knows? But I just think it's sad, to be honest, that this has been happening this entire time, and no one said a word. No one said a fucking word. Everyone's just acting like it's not been going on. It's kind of sad. I'm not gonna lie. It's not kind of sad. It is really, really sad, because the work is so good. The work is so good. The work is so intricate. The word is so emotional. The work is so emotional. The work says so much, but unfortunately is that that's that DJ, isn't it, right? What's her name? VTSS, I think, right? I didn't know she was modeling for the brand, actually. That's her. I'm pretty sure that's that DJ. But yeah, no surprise though, right? Linking up with DJs, no surprise. Going from one of the most, egotistical professions known to man to working with the brand itself, it makes all the fucking sense in the world. But yeah, will this actually affect her in the real world? I personally don't think so. Like I said, I think there's probably a queue of kids out there right now who are more than willing and ready to go work for her. They're probably sending her DMs right this now at this minute, wanting to work with her. And she's probably going to be inundated with applications and shit. It's not going to change jack shit, unfortunately. And the work's really good too. But like I said, I'd let her throw something in my head. I'm not going to lie. I'd let her throw something in my head. Whether or not I spend 1,000 on the brand, I don't think so. But I definitely think I'd let her throw something in my head. I just grabbed the scissors with one hand. But yeah, you get the gist. You get the fucking gist. And the last update regarding this, courtesy of Luis Pisano, who's been on top of it. He says the Leicester Fashion District, I don't know what power they essentially have. Please forgive me, Leicester Fashion District. The LFD, Leicester Fashion District, has issued an open letter calling from the British Fashion Council to revoke Dilara Findikoglu's Vanguard Award in light of the recent allegations of toxic workplace. So big up Leicester Fashion District for, sticking their neck out there and calling this out. Don't know what this is going to do, because, don't know how much power or weight they have in the industry, but still, it's good to see. The open letter reads as follows. Recent reports published by Fashionista, along with years of anonymous reviews on Glassdoor, reveal deeply troubling and concerns about the working culture at the label of Dilara Findikoglu. These concerns include exploitation, emotional mistreatment, overwork, unfair labor practices, and discrimination at multiple levels. Below is a summary of the recurring allegations. Internships were reportedly unpaid. Several reviews mention working up to 90 hours a week with no breaks, no weekends, no paid transport or lunch. Interns described being severely overworked because the studio was understaffed. Some were asked to run personal errands such as buying food or coffee while still expected to complete production tasks. Multiple reviews reference verbal abuse. Workplace has been described as being more than one former intern as toxic. According to publicly reported Fashion expose, there are serious allegations beyond exploitation, including claims from former models and staff of shaming and racist treatment. Raw, Ted. So she doesn't like blacks. Damn, I don't stand a chance, unfortunately. Label's internal ratings for equity, diversity, and inclusion on Glassdoor are extremely low at 1.3 to 5. So who is she hiring then? Is she just hiring whites or something? Is that why? She's not hiring any blacks or any guys or stuff. It's also happening. It's interesting, isn't it? You would imagine with how the brand presents itself, right, on the runway, that it was like a bastion of diversity, because the casting is always very diverse, very interesting, in terms of, fucking identification, in terms of sexual orientation, in terms of identity in general, like always very diverse. So it's very interesting to see that their diversity and equity rating is so fucking low. I wonder what that means, actually. Does that mean that not enough women working there, not enough minorities, both? I wonder. Very interesting. Let's continue. Is that fucking what's her name? Caroline Palashek. That's not her. Looks a little bit like her. Let's continue with the article. These reports have spanned several years from 2022 to 2025. Despite this documented history of abuse, exploitation, discrimination, and harassment, the British Fashion Council recently awarded Dilara Findikoglu with a significant accolade. It's like Trump getting the Peace Award, isn't it? This is like Trump getting the Peace Award at the fucking FIFA thing. Dilara is known for working, essentially having a whole brand being supported by a team of like unpaid interns and essentially off the back of slave labor and shit. Here she is winning what was it? Humanitarian award or whatever, was it? Despite honoring the designer whose workplace has been repeatedly described as harmful, discriminatory, and exploitative, sends a deeply damaging message to interns, graduates, and young creatives. If the British fashion industry wants to be generally ethical, inclusive, and forward-thinking, then leadership must take responsibility. True, but to be fair to the British fashion industry, it is full of a lot of Dilara Findikoglus. To be fair. There's a lot of Dilara Findikoglus, whether they're at unis, whether they're at brands, showrooms, stores. There's a lot of absolute cunts that really need to get punched in the face, essentially. But it doesn't happen because everyone wants to keep their job. Everyone wants to kind of get a career in fashion. But it is, it's kind of like a prerequisite to work in the industry. You kind of have to be a dick. That's why when people meet people who are cool and kind and chill, they go out of their way to kind of really suck them off and big them up and glaze them and give them their flowers because it's very rare. So, it's sort of like learned behavior. Not to give her any, not to put my fucking Dilara fucking cape on, but this is learned behavior. The whole industry is full of cunts, to be fair. But anyway, we digress. The last bit of the letter. I call for the British Fashion Council to reevaluate and revoke the award given to Dilara Findikoglu. Commit publicly to safeguarding interns, junior creatives, models, and staff by thoroughly reviewing workplace culture before issuing honours. Acknowledge the concerns raised by former interns, staff, models, recognize the impact that this environment has had on them. Set a clear industry precedent that abusive behavior, exploitation, toxic working conditions, racism, body shaming, and discrimination will not be tolerated regardless of status or influence. The next generation of designers, makers, interns, assistants, models, young creators deserve an industry that protects them, not one that overlooks or rewards their mistreatment. Respectfully, Sally Ann Kirk, Director of Leicester Fashion District, CIC. Big up Sally Ann Kirk. Big up Sally Ann Kirk. Amazing message, amazing letter. Hopefully that does something. I doubt it will, but we hope. Actually, I want to see what award did she win? Didn't British Fashion Awards winners? What did she actually win? Let's see. What did she win? This is the winners, right? What did she win? Dilara. Oh, she won Vanguard of award. What the fuck does a Vanguard mean? Does that mean like a thought leader, right? I think that's like thought leader or something, isn't it, right? Vanguard meaning. A group of people leading the way. Yeah, okay, yeah, leading the way. Leading the way with slave labor. She's leading the way with slave labor, allegedly leading the way with slave labor. You gotta fucking love it, man. This is the British Fashion Award, so yeah. Maybe this whole award ceremony is fucking funded off the back of unpaid interns. You never know. Unpaid interns probably made that set. Made the awards. We're taking the pictures. Unpaid interns make the world go around. Oi, tasty. Big up Lily Allen out there as well. Yeah, unpaid interns make the world go around. Who's that? Alexa Chung. Oh, she looks really good there, isn't it? Big up Alexa Chung. Big up Alexa Chung. This is isn't this lady a editor or something, right? Chioma Nandi, I think. That's a beautiful dress. But yeah, everybody here is out there whilst, knowing full well that the industry is funded on. Oh, look at Anuki Eye. Look at Anuki Eye though. Jesus Christos. What a dress. What a look. Oh, she's actually wearing Dilara Findikoglu. No. I didn't know that dress was from her. That dress, the number, that went viral, and people were hyping it. Damn, she got slave garments on. That's sad, but hey, it is what it is. Big up Leomi Anderson as well. I think she designed this herself. I think she mentioned it on Twitter somewhere. That's the actor, right? What's his name? Nkuti Gatwa. Big up Nkuti Gatwa. Yeah, good. Erin O'Connor out there as well. Who's that? Is that? Oh shit, Billy Piper. I thought that was Jeff Burgess' lady. Big up Billy Piper. I thought that was Jeff Burgess' lady. I really did. Who's that? Will Poulter. Of course he's wearing Nicholas Daly. I like this guy, man. He's a real ally to the niggers. Big up Will Poulter. He's a real ally to the niggers, bro. He's always repping. Wearing some Nicholas Daly. Love to see it. Who's this? Ashley Graham. What's she wearing? Febin and Stuart Whitesman. Okay, I don't like that dress at all. Doesn't really flatter her too much. Doesn't look too well. Good, but hey, what do I know? It's nice there. Don't know who that lady is. Oh, look at Kylie Minogue. Gorgeous. Love that. Not mad at that at all. JW Anderson. Oh yeah, big up Iris Law. I still love that story of her allegedly throwing a kettle at someone? No, is it a kettle? What was that? I forgot the story anyway, but big up Iris Law anyway in general. I like the hair, don't like the dress too much. Big up, who's that? Lila Moss, right? I'm assuming that's Kate Moss's daughter. Wow, she looks kind of like Asian, isn't it? Is she? I don't know if her dad is Asian, but she kind of looks Asian in the face. Wow. Big up Lila Moss though. Oh, look at that. I love that. Where the fuck's that from? Who's that? Big up Dina Asher Smith wearing Ferrari style. That suit is beautiful. I love how that skirt just slits there like that. And that suit jacket as well, I ain't mad at that at all. Big up you. Who's this? Don't know. Monroe Bergdorf. That name is familiar. I don't know why. Isn't she some sort of like a gay icon or something, right? I don't know. Who's this? Oh, is that Paloma Elsa? Shit. She looks like she's lost a lot of weight, innit? She looks trim as fuck. That's a really nice look as well. What's that, Mew Mew? Fuck, fair play. Big up Paloma Elsa. That angle's a bit mad though with the little underarm. That angle's they did it a bit dirty with that picture, but overall she looks really good here. Big up Paloma Elsa. She looks fucking beautiful there. Not mad at that in the slightest. Who's this with her mouth slightly ajar? Oh, it's a lady from what's that show? The bank show, right? I forgot what the name of it. That's that woman, right? Yeah, she looks great here. Oh, look at those trousers. Oof. Not mad at that. Oh yeah. Big up Pink Pantress. We like what we see here. What is that from? That's from Shapova Lowena, right? Oof, yeah. Pink Pantress looking all the way good there. So big up the British Fashion Council. You know, unfortunately, a lot of this has been marred now by the poor treatment of the interns. Solidarity with the interns world over. Hopefully, you guys all get the just deserves that you need. Oh yeah, that's the guy that I met outside Dover Street with Ray Kawakubo. Andre Joff, yeah, he's Ray Kawakubo's husband and business partner. I think he's the one that runs all the Dover Streets and shit, if I'm not mistaken. And that's who's that? That's Gwendolyn Christie, yeah, the woman from Game of Thrones. Love to see it. But yeah, everyone looks amazing here. Ikram Abdi Omar, wow, incredible as well. Everyone looks really good at the British Fashion House. Who's this? Maya Jama, she looks great as well. What's that outfit by? Ludovic de Saint-Serine. Okay, not mad at that at all. And who's this? Ronnie Ma. Okay, big up everybody that was there. Big up everybody that was there. Big up bloody everybody that was there. We love to see it. We love to fucking see it. Okay, moving on.